Hello and welcome to our practice together. We are starting with a theme of Ahimsa, which is translated as non-harm or non-violence. And due to the time of year, I wanted to choose that so that we could really focus on practicing that to ourselves. So really inwardly practicing that non-harm. So particularly thinking about the thoughts and the way that we speak to ourselves. So we're going to start lying down to begin. And as you bring yourself to a lying down position, whatever you usually choose, so maybe that is having a blanket underneath you, maybe you have a little support for your head or a pillow, especially if there's any sinus things going on, or if you've got a headache and you don't want to have your head in line with the rest of the spine onto the ground. So whatever you need to add, just bring that in. Any extra warmth as well, I would always suggest to have a blanket underneath you in this particularly cold weather. So as you bring yourself to a lying down position, having a little fidget and maybe changing how your legs are positioned, notice how that feels for you in the rest of your body. And once you find that position that you feel ready to settle, bringing your eyes so that the eyelids meet if that feels comfortable for you. Alternatively, softening your gaze and having an awareness of the whole of your body. Notice what is present for you. And we're going to return straight back to that theme of non-harm. So as we first come to stillness, it's probably a little busy within the activity of your mind. So before we think about what those thoughts are, as you notice that movement, bring in that extra little bit of kindness as you redirect your awareness back into your body. And also just accepting that the mind has this tendency to want to be active. So each time that you're aware of that, creating space and a pause so that you can arrive back into your body and start to notice the breath as it rises and releases. And we're going to begin by placing our hands onto our forehead. So one hand on your forehead, placing the other hand on top, noticing the weight of your hands, noticing how it feels in the rest of your arms and your shoulders. Can you relax your arms as much as possible? And noticing the contact of where your skin is feeding back to where your hands are resting. Maybe noticing the temperature, the weight. And then bringing your hands to rest onto your abdomen. Starting to notice the movement of your hands with each cycle of your breath, a gentle rise and a gentle lowering. And we're going to begin with a few rounds of straw breath before we start with any movement. And a slight little addition to how we do that today. So first of all, bringing your awareness to your nose as you feel the breath enter and leave. And then we'll start on that next exhalation, allowing the breath to leave through the mouth, through slightly pursed lips. So we're just gently blowing the breath out. Once all that air has left the body, nice and easeful as you breathe in, softening the muscles around your abdomen. Breathing out through those slightly pursed lips. And as you continue to do that at your own pace, starting to visualize a candle. And when you blow out the breath, you just want to make the flame slightly flicker. So you don't want to blow that candle out. So really encouraging that exhalation to lengthen, to feel smooth, not too forceful. Take one more of those. And then when you are ready, coming back to feeling your breath as it enters and leaves your nostrils. And then taking your arms, giving yourself a hug as you wrap your arms around yourself. And just noticing where your hands land on your body. Notice the weight of your arms onto your chest. How this maybe affects your breath and the movement. And then just uncrossing the arms, switching whichever arm was on top, letting your arms re-land. And then as you release the arms, resting them alongside you. If you have your legs out straight, planting your feet onto the ground first before we bring the knees towards the chest. Have a little hug of the knees, whether that's both knees or if it's better for you to do one at a time. You might feel like you want to move in this position. Okay, so then as you release your feet down to the ground, resting your arms alongside you, the next time you breathe in, I'm going to take your arms up overhead. As you breathe out this time, bringing the arms back, lifting the feet as you draw the knees in towards the chest. Breathing in as we expand the arms and legs away from each other. Breathing out as we gather in. So if you're doing this one knee at a time, just switching whichever knee that is. And just noticing how this feels, particularly in your torso. So you might start to feel this little quiet strength in your center as it leads you in and out of these two shapes. And then the next time you bring your knees towards your chest, I'm going to pause here. We're going to be doing the same expansion with our arms and legs, but changing the direction of the legs. So extending your feet up towards the ceiling. The legs don't have to be straight, especially if there's tightness. Bringing your arms overhead. Breathing out as we lower the feet, bringing the hands back onto the knees. Breathing in as we expand. Breathing out as we return. So slightly different to that first movement that we've just done. This one, we want to feel more easeful, more of a sense of lightness. So just reminding ourselves not to try to force your legs straight. Let the knees have as much of a bend as they need to so that you can continue with this light, expansive feeling. And then the next time you draw your knees in towards your chest, lowering your feet onto the ground. With your arms resting alongside you, just preparing to come into bridge pose. So with your feet roughly hip width apart and ankles approximately underneath the knees. Back of the neck is nice and long. As you breathe out, take your awareness to the back of your body. Breathing in as you push into the feet, lifting your pelvis. Breathing out as you slowly lower back down. So just notice how this feels from how your feet are positioned. Maybe taking them a little wider. Maybe taking them a little further away from you. Just notice what is the best position for you to feel this length and extension into your spine, to feel support. And then just combining this movement with the pace of your breath. So really feeling and listening to where that in-breath starts to then become the out-breath. And at that point, we change from that bridge position to re-lower back onto the ground. Okay, the next time that you land onto the ground, either pausing in this constructed rest position, or if you feel like you want an extra little counter and bringing the knees back in towards your chest, then please do. And then as you release your feet onto the ground, we're going to gradually bring ourselves to a kneeling position. So depending on your energy levels, you may come over to one side first of all, or you may have a little rock and roll motion to bring yourself up, and then into a tabletop position. So as always, as much padding underneath your knees as you need. If it doesn't feel so good for you to be on your wrists today, then you can rest onto a bolster or onto 2 pillows or some blocks, something else that you can rest your forearms onto. Okay, so then from here, in your neutral position, head is in line with the spine. Extending your right leg out behind you. Toes can be connected to the ground or the leg can be lifted. Encouraging this leg now over to the left as much as is available for you. You can lower the foot if you like, if it's lifted. We're then going to explore reaching that right hand forwards. Maybe coming onto the fingertips. Maybe walking it over towards the left. So it is a bit of a balance challenge here. But we want to pause here, send the breath to the right side of your body. Slowly walking the hand back, gently lowering your knee. Resetting in your neutral position before we come over to the other side. So now extending your left leg out behind you. Maybe the toes are on the ground, maybe they're lifted. And then encouraging that leg over to the right as much as you can. And then that exploration of taking your left hand onto the fingertips as you reach. Maybe it walks over to the right. Just notice how that right leg feels. Sending the flow of air to the left side of your body. And then returning your hand, gently lowering your knee, taking a little rest now off our arms. As you take your knees wider, preparing for Balasana Child's Pose, toes together. And as you lower your bum, maybe the arms reach forwards, maybe you rest your head onto your hands, or maybe you have a block or cushion underneath your forehead. Just choosing whichever way to support your head so you can relax the muscles in your neck. You can allow the softness of your breath to rise up into the back of your lungs. And then lifting your head as you rise back up into that tabletop position. Okay, so now taking your right leg out to the side, and it may be that it's a little more behind you, maybe it's a little more in front, anywhere in between here, planting the foot onto the ground. On your next in-breath, starting to lift your right elbow, reaching the arm up, maybe the gaze follows. As you breathe out, lowering your arm, threading it underneath the other. Breathing in as you open and unfurl. Breathing out as you let that exhalation support you down. And just sensing into the space across the front of the body as you breathe in. And awareness of the back of your shoulder blades as you breathe out. And it may be for some of us, it feels okay to take a bend in the left elbow as you thread the right arm through, almost like you're lowering your right shoulder to the ground. We're going to make that the last one on this side, landing your hand, bringing your knee back into tabletop. Just taking a little pause to notice how it feels on that side of your body before we bring that to the other side. So now extending your left leg out to the side, wherever that is for you, planting your foot. On your next in-breath, starting to lift the elbow, reaching that left hand up. As you breathe out, we're lowering, rotating and reaching. So following the pace of your breath, as you continue to have this awareness of what your body's doing, particularly your torso, as you move in and out of this rotation. Notice how it feels around your shoulders, how it feels in where your body is stabilizing you. We're going to make that the last one on this side. So when you reach your hand up, lowering it down to the ground, bringing your knees back as you arrive into tabletop. And then lowering yourself onto the front of your body. So as you lower down, bringing your hands to the top of your mat, resting your forehead onto your hands. Having a little rock of the pelvis as you encourage as much connection between the front of your body and the ground. Maybe lifting one leg at a time, feeling them as they re-land. And just making sure that however your forehead is resting onto your hands, you can feel length along the back of your neck. As we pause in this change in orientation, noticing how the experience of your breath may feel slightly different. So maybe the in-breath is being directed to take more space now into the back of your body. And as you breathe out, you can feel you're softening into the front of the body. So we're just coming into our last movement part of the practice before we come into our restorative. So preparing for Bhujangasana, Cobra Pose. As you next take an in-breath, starting to lift your head, your shoulders, gently pushing your hands and your forearms into the ground as you look ahead. As you breathe out, we're lowering back down, resting your forehead onto your hands. Breathing in as you lift, breathing out as you lower, just taking care not to force through any pain that you may be experiencing. You may want to change the position and distance between your feet. And then an option for you to have a slightly different variation of your arms. So you may want to give this a try. And you can return back to this first variation at any point. So alternatively, as you lift, we're sliding the hands out to the side, sliding the hands back as we lower on the out breath. Breathing in as we lift, and breathing out as we lower. So as you continue to take a few more of those, whichever variation of how you have your arms positioned, really feeling the expanse spreading up through the front of your body, feeling the support of the ground as you arrive back into that neutral position as you breathe out. The next time that you lower to the ground, bringing your hands either side of your chest, just underneath your shoulders, so that you can start to push up. And as you bring yourself to an upright position, just preparing now for our first restorative, which is going to be supported balasana. So we're coming into a supported child's pose. I have got 2 pillows. You can use your bolster if you have a bolster, but 2 pretty firm pillows work just as well. A couple of different options here depending on how it feels in each of our bodies. If you don't have any blocks or bricks, more cushions. So we're going to come into a child's pose position into our legs, and we're bringing our bolster or cushions as close as possible. So this first option, I'm going to reach the arms forwards just as we do in child's pose, landing your torso onto your support and taking your head to one side. So this may feel comfortable for some of us, maybe not. If you've got any sinus things going on, you want to have your head a bit higher, prop some extra cushions or blocks underneath just so it's a little bit raised. You can even pop a blanket underneath your head if you like for an extra bit of height. If we're feeling the pressure in the knees, you can take more cushions or blocks, place them underneath your sitting bones. So the weight is going into the blocks rather than onto the knees. So that might just feel a little more comfortable. You probably want to put another cushion or pillow just to raise this up to you as well, just so that your head isn't going to be too low. It might feel okay for some of us, but if you want to have it a bit higher, just get some more cushions, blocks underneath there. There's one final option if you don't feel comfortable on your knees at all. We can bring in a chair. And we're going to take a wide leg stance, seated position. Resting your hands onto your chair, having it far enough away from you so you've got a little bit of a hinge motion at your hips, and then resting your head onto your arms. If you feel like you need to bring it a bit closer, then please do. Maybe you just want to rest on your hands. But whichever option you choose, you feel physically supported and you're not having to prop yourself up using your muscles and creating tension in your body. You want to be able to encourage any tightness to loosen, and maybe closing your eyes or softening your gaze. Taking your awareness to where you feel connected, where you feel contact. Then taking your awareness to the back of your body, to the space between your shoulder blades. And as we stay here for the next few minutes, feeling as though that space starts to get bigger, and maybe it does, but that space starts to become bigger as your shoulders soften, as you release the weight of your arms into the ground. Sending your in-breath to that space in the back of your body. As it rises up, each out-breath allows you to soften a little more. Then going to lift your head, and without moving the rest of your body, just turning to face the other way as you land onto your other cheek. Continuing to observe how your breath feels in this position of support. And starting to come back to visualizing your candle. And as you visualize the candle and the flame, maybe connecting to the warmth and heat that that generates, but also paying attention to the wax, how that starts to become softer with the heat. Can we encourage that same softness into the muscles of our body? And then as you start to lift your head, bringing it back in line with your spine, beginning to lift the weight of your torso, starting to walk your hands back, bringing yourself back up, and then making your way onto the back of your body. So as you bring yourself to a lying down position, just going to take a slightly wider position of your feet. So into constructed rest, but we've got the feet so that they're mat width apart. Making sure that your spine is neutral, gentle encouragement of your chin to your chest. Maybe your hands are resting on your body, or maybe they are on the ground. We're going to start to float your knees over towards the right, going onto the inner and outer edges of your feet. And then as you breathe out, lifting your knees back up towards the ceiling. Breathing in as you float your knees now over to the left. So just alternating from one side to the other. Allowing this movement to be led by the knees, but noticing that sort of rippling effect that it has on the rest of the body. By moving the knees to one side, you feel that opposite side of the pelvis lifting, maybe even around the ribs. An awareness now of this rotation that's flowing up through your body. If you would like to take a little pause on one side, then please do. Whether it's one breath or two breaths. Just making sure when you come to the other side, you do that same little pause, same amount of breaths. And then when you bring your knees back up towards the ceiling, we're going to bring back our pillows or our bolster or your brick if that's what you prefer to use. So coming into supported bridge. So we're taking our bolster or pillows underneath the back of the knees. And then as you breathe out, feeling the weight of your body and where it's connected to the ground. On the next in-breath, pushing into your feet, lifting your pelvis, bringing your bolster or your cushion underneath your pelvis. If you have a block or a blanket, whatever you're using to create the height that feels right for you today. And making sure that as the pelvis settles, you feel fully held. You don't feel like you're rocking forwards or backwards. So that we're also not creating any activation or tension in our hips, in our legs. And as you start to land, maybe changing how the feet are positioned. So it may be that you take the feet a little wider and let the knees come in towards each other. Maybe you take the feet a little further away from you. And then if it feels comfortable for you to close your eyes, then please do. As you start to follow the breath, traveling through your body in this shape. An awareness of what may be arising for you. Really taking your time to be kinder bringing your awareness back into your body, however many times that may be. Letting your mind be in service of yourself rather than being in control of replaying any stories. Knowing that the sensation that you are aware of lives only in the present. So each breath that you feel brings you back into being here. And maybe bringing in that extra little focus for your mind, starting to visualize your candle. Noticing the flame, if there's any movement. Becoming aware of the wax, how it's softening and melting. And as you encourage that same process of softening in your physical body, gently encouraging the tension to ease and for a relaxation to flow through your body with each cycle of your breath. So now taking some slightly deeper inhalations as you arrive back into the presence of your body. Starting to bring your awareness back to your legs, and if you've changed how your feet are positioned, just bringing them in a way that feels supportive so that you can start to bring some weight into the feet to slide your support from underneath the pelvis as you re-land your spine onto the ground. Arriving into Shavasana. So maybe you keep your support underneath your knees as you extend your legs out. Maybe that feels more comfortable for you. Or possibly removing anything so that you can feel yourself almost flat against the ground. Or maybe it's something slightly different for you, possibly on the side of your body. Whatever you choose, making sure you have got a feeling of length along the back of your neck. That your arms and your hands are resting in the most comforting position. Softening into the muscles around your face, especially around the eyes if the eyelids are closed. And as you gently release your jaw, continuing to follow your awareness down the back of your body where you feel firmly connected to the ground. On your next in-breath, becoming aware of the front of your body, how that shape slightly changes, allowing you to take up more space. Breathing out as you encourage more softening into the back of your body. As you follow your breath, coming back to your candle in your mind's eye, back to how the wax is continuing to soften, and having this sense of the back of your body melting into the ground. As we rest for these final few moments of stillness, reminding yourself of that internal practice of non-harm, with the thoughts, how we're speaking to ourselves. Taking care not to create any resistance from what it is that we notice, but allowing ourselves to redirect to strengthening towards this more of a feeling of clarity. Maybe we're redirecting our mind back to visualizing our candle. As you feel your breath flowing in and out of your body. Arriving back into the presence of your body with slightly deeper inhalations and slightly longer exhalations. Some gentle movement. And before we come over to the side, you may wish to have a final hug of your knees. And whenever you're ready, coming over to the side as you ensure your head is supported. Beginning to lift up into an upright position, having your legs however feels comfortable. Lowering your chin towards your chest. Taking this final moment, giving thanks to the teachers who have practiced before us, allowing us to benefit from the practice today. And thank you to yourselves for giving yourself this time. If your eyes are closed, blinking them open as you arrive back into your room, and take your time as you head into the rest of your day. Thank you very much.